back to our breaking news story. About 50% of areas are without power in Durban tonight. This following an explosion at the Klaarwater major substation. The head of electricity in eThekwini Municipality, Maxwell Mthembu, joins us now for an update. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Mthembu. We do appreciate it. What is actually going on? What has happened?
Thank you, Heidi. Good evening, and to the viewers at home. What has happened, actually, we had a flashover that took place in our Klaarwater substation. We want to believe that it happened at a time when we had a big, was it a flash? Yes, a flash in the sky from the lightning that was happening in Durban. But it took one line down. The line is coming from Klaarwater substation to Cottmore, but there's a tee-off that goes to Shallcross. So the tee-off that goes to Shallcross is the one on line one that went down to the ground. So that's what caused all the way back to the substation Klaarwater a flashover, which then became a big bang and a big something looked like fire. That happened. Then they tripped about 40% of the load in Durban, about 600 megawatts that went down at one go, just before 8 o'clock this evening. So this was really transpired that caused the outage that happened this evening.
So
as of now, as I'm talking to you, the power has been restored, except in Shallcross, because I'm still patrolling the second line just before the restoration. But 95% of the areas are now back on.
Okay. Before we get into the restoration, you say it's 95%, but I want us to get into more details of that. I just want to get clarity. So you're saying that there was some lightning in Durban, and then it took down one line, and then it caused this massive explosion at the Klaarwater substation.
I got disturbed by a call that came in here. I don't know what caused it, but somebody was trying to get a hold of me.
Okay, let me repeat the question. Let me repeat the question for you. I just want a point of clarity. Are you telling me that there was lightning that took down one line and then it then caused a further explosion? Because the visuals that we're showing now, this looks like a massive explosion that took place. So are you telling me that this was caused by lightning?
Okay. Now, what I'm saying, there was a lightning at the time just before the bang that you saw. That took place in Durban. I'm not saying it was what caused it. Was still investigating that part. But after that lightning, immediately after it, a few seconds later, then there was a big flashover that happened within the substation, now, which is a Klaarwater substation. So we're still investigating the cause of the line falling down to the ground. Even the line on its own falling down to the ground can cause that flashover that you saw. But we're still investigating. But all we know for now is a fact is that there's a line that is on the ground that is going to Shallcross area. Is one of the suburbs here in Durban. So that whole area is still off at the moment while everybody else is back on. But that flashover is the one that went back all the way to the visual that you saw.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, of course, you will be investigating further as to the true cause behind this. You said that 95% of Durban has been restored with electricity. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. About 10 minutes ago.
Okay, so the damage isn't as severe as it seems in those visuals?
No, not at all. Actually, whenever there's a flashover of that nature, when it goes back to the breakers in the substation, what you saw in the visual is what takes place in reality.
Okay.
There's nothing burning. Yeah, it was a flashover that is just showing there's a fault that is happening somewhere. It was a big fault.
Okay, just elaborate a bit for us. You're saying it was a big fault, but there's nothing burning at this stage.
No, there's nothing burning. What happens whenever there's a fault, there's a bang that will happen in the breaker. It shows the breaker is operating. So whenever the breaker is operating in the same manner that we saw in the visual, it's going to be followed by a flashover, which is going to be something that looks like fire, but it's not actually the fire that is causing like something's burning. It's a fire that shows that something is operating in our equipment. So that's what really happened on those visuals. There was a flashover, there was a bang that happened at the same time. So then the power went off. It was showing that the circuit breaker in the substation was operating. It was coming back on. It was being switched off in that manner, in a bang, and showing the fire coming through. But that fire, it was not to mean that something is burning down and in the form of being destroyed. There was nothing like that. There's nothing that has been destroyed. It was a flashover and a bang that shows that the breaker was operating.
Okay, so when will the 5% electricity that's not restored be restored? I'm sure you have your engineers and technicians on the ground assessing the damage.
We are expecting that before midnight, if not, but before the early hours of the morning. Look, the one line is done, but the other line, we're checking if everything is in order with it before we restore the power. So once everything is confirmed to be in order within 30 minutes to an hour, then we'll be able to switch it back on as well. We're going to run the entire shuttle cross with one line. Normally, we run with the second line as a backup, so the backup is down right now, but there's nothing stopping us from restoring the power supply using the other line.
Okay, so let's just confirm this. There's nothing burning. There was no massive explosion. It was just a flashover, and 95% of electricity has been restored.
True.
Okay, thank you so much for your time. We do appreciate it, and we'll definitely just keep tabs, because I think residents are in a complete panic having seen those visuals and that massive flashover. But thanks for your time. That's the head of electricity in eThekwini Municipality, Maxwell Mthembu.